This time is called a regular meeting of September the 20th, 2011 to order. Time I'd like to ask Council Lady Miss Sidney Wilson, if she'd lead us in the invocation and pledge allegiance, please. All rise.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, our Almighty God, we thank you for all the blessings you bestowed on us, state and country. We ask your guidance and wisdom and decisions and search the discussion. We ask your protection and guidance for those who protect us, protect our rights and privileges in the country. In the name of my precious Savior Jesus Christ.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic against one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a thing of, want to know the minutes weren't ready. The transcriptionist was on vacation. Hopefully I have him ready for next council meeting for approval. That's what that is. And before we get started, I want to ask the council, please ask y'all's indulgence on a couple of items to add to the agenda. One was, we talked about the animal shelter spade and neuter. Get out to the spade and neuter clinic and bring it off the, bring it up. We got to report and bring it back on the council meeting tonight, so I didn't have it on the agenda. It's on the, it was tabled, so I just want to make sure we all agreement to, or the injections about bringing that up tonight. And the second thing need is the Green Pond boat landing park that's being worked on. We need to get it. We need amendment to the add to the agenda agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Green Pond Land Event Center, where we can get a, and I'll bring it to talk about when we get up. It's just a thing of formality where they can go on the property and work. They haven't got the agreement ready yet, and they ready to go. Keep us getting behind. Ain't gonna be no money or nothing, but all we're doing is adding it to the agenda, and I'll bring it all up and explain everything at that time. But can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I add those two items?
Second.
Second motion, Mr. Moore, and second by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion is carried. Moving on now, thank y'all very much. Moving on now to item number 3, citizens' comments. Mr. Pitts, when Mr. Pitts calls your name, please step forward and name and again, please, in your district, and keep the matters, address the chair, and please keep matters related to the agenda on this go around, please. Mr. Pitts.
Two quick things. One is I hope that the ordinance that you're working on, the travel, can be fixed where there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. Money is really tight. I go in Walmart, and out of 28 registers, there are only 7 operational, and they're only 1 to 2 people deep. You go in Ingles, there are more cars in the parking lot that belong to employees than there are to people shopping. Things are really tight. We need not waste any money. Second thing, under 11, the administrator's reports. Again, I do not see a report about the animal shelter. I know we have a new director. I have not met her yet. And I know we have a rescue coordinator. And I've been reading about some things that they've been doing. And hopefully this is helping the numbers. But we need to have that report reported to the public every month, just as these other things are. If you're going to do accountability and clearness, the public deserves to know those things. And I'm going to ask Mr. Rusty Burns, administrator, through Mr. Dunn, our chairman, to please, somebody, once a month, for the prior month, to get up and give us those numbers. I think it's a responsible thing for the administrator to do, and I believe that if they're not doing it, that to me just leads lots of questions as to what may be not going on or going on, and I hope it's good news. But the public needs to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pitts. Moving on to item number 4, ordinance is third reading, number 2011-025, ordinance approving a proposed amendment to the Plan Development District by New Springs Community Church on of 35 acres, New Spring Community Church, 2940 Concord Road. This is do their parking lot. Third reading, we've had 2 other votes on this on public hearing. Are they, make a motion? Motion, Mr. Moore to move, second, Ms. Wilson, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 4B, ordinance to amend ordinance number 98-019 as previously amended by the ordinance number 99-029 through all the way through and stops at 2009-033 relating to the industrial business park of Anderson and Greenville County so as to enlarge the park. Again, it's the third reading. We've had two votes on this in a public hearing. Do we have a motion? Motion, Mr. Moore, second, Mr. Crowder. Any discussion? And all in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank y'all. Moving on to item number 5, ordinance of second reading, number 2011-028, ordinance authorizing the creation and organization of the South Carolina WorkLink Workforce Investment Corporation as a South Carolina nonprofit corporation to serve as the local workforce investment board for the workforce investment area comprised of Anderson County, Coney County, and Pickens County, South Carolina, through the execution of a intergovernmental agreement by and among said counties, authorizing the execution and delivery of such intergovernmental agreement and other matters related thereto. This time we'll be going into a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please step forward and state your name. Address the chair, please. Anyone at all? Hearing none, public hearing will be closed. Second reading, do we have a motion? Motion, Mr. Moore, to move it. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Allen?
Good, maybe, and I don't know if it'd be Mr. Pitts or whoever, but could somebody just give like a very short description of what this is about? Because I think a lot of folks probably don't know.
Mr. Allen, I'll be happy to do that. This is this ordinance authorizes Coney County, Pickens, and Anderson. They receive certain funds through the Workforce Investment Act. Those funds a lot of times are administered through ACOG. What this is doing here is the 3 counties are getting together and forming a 501c3 corporation to help oversee those all the workforce investment functions in the 3 counties, and this agreement contemplates that perhaps at some point the corporation would administer the grant, receive and administer the grant funds.
Thank you.
More discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank y'all. Moving on to item number 6, ordinance is first reading, 6A, number 2011-029, the ordinance authorizing a fee in lieu of tax arrangement and infrastructure finance agreement on behalf of Electrolux Home Products Incorporated. Mr. Pitts, Burns, when y'all want to handle this? Nelson? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you for allowing me to be here and make this presentation today. We're coming before you with a fee in lieu agreement as we've already represented in the inducement resolutions from about a month ago. This is for Project E, Electrolux, and the project manager on this particular project was Shay Razakis, that she worked with Electrolux before she left. Obviously, this is an existing industry, and they come to us with an expansion of their operation there. They're going to bring 12 to 14 new jobs, and a huge part of this is the preservation of more than 1,800 existing jobs at that facility. The initial project investment is $28 million with a total of $65 million anticipated over a 10-year period. There are 3 fee agreements that will be ultimately addressed here. One is a new fee agreement addressing the $65 million capital investment. We're also looking at the extension of their existing fee agreement for another 10 years as provided by a fee law change that took place in 2010, as well as capturing investment on the site that had not been previously captured within the multi-county park agreement with an infrastructure credit to make that resemble what a fee agreement would look like. This is brought to you as a recommendation from staff as well as the Economic Development Advisory Board, and we respectfully request you give favorable consideration to this project.
Anyone have any questions or comments this time? Ms. Floyd?
I met Mr. Thompson for the first time today. In my mind, he will be the man. But as I spoke to him, I told him how pleased I was that he has come to us asking for this fee in lieu of tax arrangements, because I know it's going to bring more jobs. But there was something else that I wish I had said to him, and that is, Mr. Thompson, I know that you're aware of this, but Electrolux has been a good neighbor. It has been a good community entity for Anderson County. There are
What is that?
but you can still hear me, can't you? Okay. There have been things that your company has done for this community that pleases me a lot. And I just want to not only thank you for what you're going to do, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for what you've done for this county. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I did not introduce Tom Thompson, who is the Electrolux manager for the cold storage technology at the Electrolux plant, and he is present today as well as represented by their legal counsel.
Glad to have you here. Mr. Crowder?
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, we certainly appreciate you being such a wonderful neighbor to Anderson County and all the great things that you do. So when I ask questions, the intent is not to belittle the agreement. I totally support it, but I did call Mr. Pitts today and pass on 3 or 4, 5 comments to him, and I understand that those things are taken care of in the next draft of the agreement. So I won't belabor all of those points because most of them are just consistency points and not technicalities. We appreciate the wonderful opportunity to have them to continue to be here and look forward to even greater things than possibly.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Ms. Floyd?
Yeah, whatever he's talking about. What's his name?
Mr. Nelson?
Mr. Nelson. Charles Nelson, thank you. Whatever he's talking about, Mr. Nelson, if there's some concerns with this, or if there's some changes that should be made, I'd like to be aware of them too at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone have a copy of it before the next meeting. Any changes or anything made, you'll get it for you. Yes, ma'am. Anybody else have a motion? Mr. Moore makes the motion to move forward. Mr. Crowder seconds. Any discussion any further? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign. I would just like to say, too, thank you, Mr. Nelson, all the hard work. Thank Electrolux, Mr. Thompson, all y'all, and look forward to working with y'all in many years to come. Thank y'all very much. On to item number 6B, number 2011-030, ordinance to reapportion the county council districts of Anderson County as to population prior to the next general election following the adoption by the state of South Carolina of the 2010 decennial census pursuant to section 4-9-90 South Carolina Code 1996 as amended and other matters related thereto. Mr. Pitts or Mr. Burns, either one of y'all have anything you want to say or add?
Just the first reading on the ordinance of the required redistricting as a result of the census, just adopting the map. And there'll be 2 public hearings on this as we go through the process.
Had one last night. We have a motion. Motion from Mr. Moore, we moved. We have a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Floyd. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Floyd?
can I take this next 30 seconds, please, to thank Mr. Newton?
Yes, ma'am.
He has done a wonderful job. I know this is his first reading, but talking for today and what I've gone through with him so far, he's done a wonderful job. I was here when they did it 10 years ago, and we had to take a little trip to get things straightened out, but I have been very pleased, Mr. Burns, in working with this.
Thank you, Floyd. Moving on to item 6C, number 2011-031, ordinance amending section 55-31 of the Anderson County Code pertaining to the county's travel reimbursement policy for travel outside of the state of South Carolina and matters related thereto. Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll read the body of this, but I do want to make the comment that I talked with the reporter, the sheriff talked with the reporter, and our county attorney talked with the reporter involved in a newspaper article that was printed this morning. And I've already had a phone call. We all said that this particular measure does not have any effect on the sheriff or his deputies. And I'd like to make sure that that is clarified with the reporter, and there should be a correction printed. The body of this ordinance states that no travel outside the state of South Carolina is permitted except for, number 1, critical continuing education and/or training, which is absolutely necessary to maintain licensure or accreditation, where the same or similar training or education are not available within the state. Or 2, project-specific economic development travel. All out-of-state travel permitted hereunder must be approved in advance by the administrator. And I put this in the form of a motion.
Motion, Ms. Wilson, have a second. Second, Mr. Moore, any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Floyd?
Okay. I'd like to know from the administrator, haven't you always approved in advance the travel out of the state of South Carolina?
All travel is approved.
Yeah, you have already been doing this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, so I guess the only 2 new things in this ordinance would be the reasoning for having to go out of state, right? Okay, I'm going to ask my fellow council members, please take a good look at this, because what you're doing is you're stifling yourself. You're stifling the progress that we can make here in Anderson County. Everything cannot be learned here in Anderson. Some of you don't even go down to the state to the conferences that they give for us so that we can learn what others are doing. I have been privileged to do some traveling, and we have brought back some good stuff back to Anderson County by going out there and looking at what others are doing. Just because you don't want to travel, I don't think it's right to keep others from traveling to enhance their abilities to do a better job for this county. Everybody travels. Everyone goes somewhere. I'm sure, Mr. Pitts, that you with your organizations or with your company, you have to go out of state to learn new things. And to see what other people are doing. Only a very short-sighted person would want to just stay here in Anderson. No, you can't go here or there because you might learn something. That's the way I see it. I'm looking at one of our employees sitting over there. He's in charge of a very important part of our county. And if there is something that he needs to learn that they're doing in Kalamazoo, I want him at that conference to see what they're doing. But I'm asking y'all to please take a look at this. Please consider this carefully. What do we want from Anderson County? What do we want in Anderson County? This is not going to stop me. District 2 will be wherever District 2 needs to be to find out what I can do to further assist the constituents in my district and to further learn how to help alleviate some of the problems that they have. But I don't think this is a good ordinance at all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I
Rally.
just had a question. Was there, I've heard that there was something that prompted this. I just wondered, had something happened in the past that, I don't know, that prompted this?
May I chime in on that?
Anybody? Sure, certainly.
Yeah. I think that this was because of me. I think this is because of me. It is no secret that I travel out of Anderson County whenever I can to learn what I can about the brownfield problems that we will have. I applied for grants and I said our, but Anderson County applied for grant after grant. But it was not until we went to a conference and sat down with these men and women who were over these things that we finally got a grant. The last year I went to Jacksonville, Florida to the same conference, and I went down there to learn about the job training program, which we didn't get this year. I went down there specifically to learn about that, which I did. I brought it back to Anderson. We met with Tri-County Tech, and Newton, who's already gone, he wrote this thing for us, and we just sat with bated breath waiting to hear from her, but we heard we didn't get it. Then last year I went to Pennsylvania for the same thing. Pennsylvania for the same thing. And then when I got back from Jacksonville, then the law started coming. There was a big ruckus about who went with me and where the money come from. Folks, the money was paid from the grant that we got for us to attend because they want us to be there. Also in the grant, I was told that I could take a member from the community. And I took the man who has been working with me on day one for this. My sister-in-law went with us, but she paid her own way to get up there, okay? But this is when it first surfaced, when I got back from Jacksonville, that we need to keep people from going out of town. But folks, you have to know something. I've got to go. I've got to go. If there's money to be found that I can bring back, I will stand out on middle of Main Street with a bucket. And I will ask for donations if I have to. But, you know, don't try to fence us in what we can and we cannot do just because you just don't like it because you don't do anything. Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am, very much so. Very thorough. Okay, I have just one other thing to ask. Just for my own clarification then, what if, for instance, if, let's say Mr. Hopkins were called up one day and said, can you be in Charlotte tomorrow to look at some bridge design for one of the roads down there? Or what if Mr. Newton happened to be called to Washington, to the Justice Department, to justify our redistricting here? Or what if Glenn Brill got a call from Hartwell, Georgia, saying, hey, come on over, Glenn, we need to discuss something to do with the lake next year as far as tourism goes? How would they get there?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah,
Do Mr. Allen?
yes,
Let me read it to you again because that's covered.
okay.
Mr. Pitts wrote this up after a great deal of research and discussion. It says, no travel outside the state of South Carolina is permitted except for, 1, critical continuing education and/or training, which is absolutely necessary to maintain licensure or accreditation where the same or similar training or education are not available within the state.
Okay.
Or 2, project-specific economic development travel. All out-of-state travel permitted hereunder must be approved in advance by the administrator. Well, obviously, if it's not available in state and they ask permission from the administrator, I would assume it would be approved.
Okay, well, which takes us back to the original document, which says employee travel outside the state of South Carolina requires the approval of the administrator or deputy. So isn't this basically just taking us back to the original
The other was a resolution which died at the end of the year. This is an ordinance which is more
Well, That was
long-lasting.
section 5531B of the ordinance that I just read, the old ordinance, which basically says the administrator will approve all out-of-state travel. That, to me, kind of covers what's in the change, unless I'm missing something there, because he's going to approve all out-of-state travel anyway. Maybe I'm...
I think that
maybe I'm
when we are
missing-
looking at greatly diminished revenues, we need to think twice before we spend a dime. And if the travel is critical to the progress of this county, then I would assume it would be approved.
If, let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say there's an accreditation course being given in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Myrtle Beach, the same course, but spread out. You could get to Atlanta in 2 hours, Charlotte in about 2, but if we can only travel in-state, then we got a 4-hour ride to Myrtle Beach, which is going to cost us twice as much money in travel.
Are you
Take
aware
it.
of any of that happening? I'm
Of course.
looking right now in your packet, for 2 months' travel, this county has spent $47,000, almost $700. And we've been reduced in revenues from state, we've been reduced from a lot of fronts. And it just seems like we need to be very good stewards of the public money. And if travel is necessary for the betterment of the county, then obviously it will continue.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That was all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Floyd?
I would like to see something in here that says that if a grant has already appropriated the money for traveling expenses, then the people who are, you have to add that little piece in there, 'cause I'm not kind of everything, but the people who are involved with whatever the grant is, should be allowed to go on their say-so. In other words, I shouldn't have to come back to the council and say, may I go to Timbuktu, when the money is already there for me to go in the grant that was received. And may I put that in the...
If I may, Ms. Floyd, just interrupt just a second. Can I speak for a second on the interruption? Maybe I can clarify something if I can first, please. I'd just like to say, Mr. Allen made some good points as far as, and I understand Ms. Wilson's concerns, the citizens, but I don't think we're getting inundated about travel. That's what the administrator we got to have, and we get, I would say, we get a report every week, every council meeting about their travel. But if we need to tune something up, I don't think this document is the one that does it, because as Mr. Allen said, trying to save money on common sense thing, trying to save money could end up costing you money if you, instead of having to go to Myrtle Beach when you go to Hartwell, Georgia, or Charlotte. At this time, I'd like to see us look at this and try to come up with something we can all, maybe what Ms. Floyd talking about. I'd like to table this next council meeting and see if we can come up with something other instead of just voting it down. Because I can't vote for this as it is, but I would vote for something other if we could get something worked out. So I'll make the motion we table this, the next council. All in favor? All opposed? All abstentions? All in favor of tabling was Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Ms. Floyd, Dunn, Mr. Crowder, Ms. Wilson. No opposition. Mr. Moore abstains.
Mr. Chairman, may
Ms.
I
Wilson?
would certainly request that you would be talking with Mr. Pitts and give us a printout of what you're proposing.
Oh, I sure will. Well, not what I want us all to get together and put our heads together and try to come up with some wording. And I will come up with my thing and see what we can do. And everybody have a copy of it, wait for a council meeting, I assure you that.
We've tried very hard, and we've done a pretty good job, but not completely, of reining in some of the extravagance in the travel. In years past, it was nothing to have $400,000 in travel expense, and some of it was of questionable nature and benefit to the county. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to also work with Mr. Pitts in drafting this thing.
Ma'am,
Mr. Crowder?
question. At the next meeting, I'd like to get a ruling from Mr. Pitts does lobbying for grants fall within the purview of a council member, or is that a staff function?
That's all. We'll be moving on to item number 7, sewer presentation with Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are all aware that sewer is a vital component of our infrastructure in Anderson County, and we also have been hearing comments that the cost of this sewer is so enormous. It actually is a burden if it's not performing correctly. And I requested our county attorney and our county finance director and our head of the wastewater treatment facilities to prepare a report and give us a real good briefing so that we understand where we've been, where we are, and where we may need to go. So at this point, I'll ask that they provide this to our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Members of the County Council, basically this presentation was given during this fiscal year 12 budget. We have condensed it, some areas, and some areas we're going to expand on. Primarily the agreements with the City of Anderson. Mr. Pitts is going to talk about those in some detail. So without further ado, sewer fund is called wastewater management for the county. Mr. Greg Smith is your director. Mr. Derek Singleton is here. He is the manager. He's the one, if something's happened with a pump station or a sewer line, they call him and he makes sure that it gets attended to and fixed. And Mr. Tim Haynes is the professional engineer out in the sewer fund.
If I could, Mr. I just want to reiterate, Mr. Burns, you correct me if I'm wrong, just for the folks to know, because it's on the agenda. Mr. Smith had engagement with his family tonight, that's the reason he's not here. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Smith had a personal family matter to attend to.
Okay, so we'll make sure everybody understands that.
Quickly just run through the history of the sewer fund. There was a sewer authority prior to 1982, and they provided a safe way to dispose of wastewater. Well, in 1982, a referendum was passed to form the Anderson County Sewer Authority, and it had a board appointed by County Council. Then in 1985, they created a special tax district of Anderson County for sewer services in the unincorporated areas of Anderson County to provide for a sewer system. And that ordinance is what created and allows for the 3 meal tax that we're all familiar with. And in 1992, another ordinance, number 369, actually dissolved that old sewer authority and created the Anderson County Sewer Department, which of course is now part of the county books, and County Council, of course, is over that department, as is Mr. Burns, the administrator. And at the present time, Mr. Singleton is responsible for making sure that 54 pump stations are run properly throughout the county. He has over 225 miles of force mains and gravity sewer lines that he's over. And Anderson County owns one wastewater treatment plant, WWTP, and it's called 6 and 20. And it currently has 1.5 million gallons per day capacity. And right now, these slides are now starting to address the agreements that were entered into between Anderson County and the City of Anderson, and Mr. Mr. Pitts, our county attorney, is going to address them.
Thanks, Rita. And I'll just cover these briefly. The first agreement goes back to 1984. That's the first agreement between the city and the county dealing with sewer issues, and we're talking primarily about 2 plants, Generosity Creek and Rocky River Creek, Rocky River wastewater treatment plant. And in that 84 agreement, the county for the first time was allocated a specific amount of capacity in those plants, about 750,000 gallons per day in Generosity Creek and 700,000 gallons per day in Rocky River. And that agreement also contemplated future expansion of those plants and how you would pay for it, and setting up the framework for a pro rata payment for those expansions based upon the amount of allocation that the city and the county has in those plants' capacity. There was another agreement in '87 which kind of piggybacks on to the '84 agreement, and it has a good bit more detail to it, but the core concept is the same, and that is an expansion of both plants. You see up there the amount of additional capacity granted to the county under both or in both plants, and bringing up the total capacity of both plants by way of an expansion. At this point, the county would have approximately 22% of the allocation in both plants, and there was an agreement between the parties that the city would issue bonds to pay for these expansions, and the county would pay its pro rata portion of the debt service based upon its allocation percentage, which is the 22% number there. There was a 1990 addendum to the agreement, and these agreements, basically from this point on, the 1987 agreement is amended by way of various documents passed by resolutions by both the city and the county councils. 1990 added 1 million gallons of capacity to Generosity Creek, and it's my understanding that was to serve one particular customer in particular, that would be Santen's. So with that additional $1 million of capacity, you now see where Anderson County has about 2.2 million gallons per day allocated in Generosity, 1.3 million gallons in Rocky River, bringing the county's total percentage up to about 28.5%, and therefore bringing up its pro rata share of the debt service to that number as well. In 1998, there was a very brief or short amendment to the 87 agreement, and it basically contemplated that the city, as the counties, and when the city and the county would come to an agreement on expanding the plants, the city would issue bonds on its own, and that the county would pay its pro rata share of the debt service for those bonds that are issued. I think it's important to note that while the amendment is pretty short, it does at all times tie back to the term project, and that's important because the term project is defined in the original 87 agreement, so that kind of gives you some parameters there as far as the two plants and the allocation percentages that we're talking about. And if you fast forward to 2003, that is the most recent agreement with the city and the county that provided for the Rocky River relief sewer or the Beaver Dam trunk line upgrades as well to Generosity Creek and the Rocky River plants, and there you have the numbers of the increased capacities allocated to the county in those particular plants at that point based upon the new capacity that was allocated. The next slide shows today county's debt service obligations, and these are tied back to the 2003 agreement. As you'll note, the parties agreed, basically the county got the a bigger proportion of the additional capacity and therefore agreed to take on a higher percentage of the debt service for those expansions. And it's also my understanding that that agreement was also in part to make the city whole for a prior expansion it undertook without the county's participation. So that kind of brings us to where we are today. I believe that covers all the agreements between the city and the county there.
Okay, and this next slide just recaps the capacity that Anderson County has in all wastewater treatment plants. Again, the first two are owned by the city of Anderson, and we own 6 and 20 wastewater treatment plant. We have a little bit of capacity in the Pendleton-Clemson wastewater treatment plant, only 0.4 MGD for Pendleton and only 0.3 for the town of Williamston's wastewater treatment plant. Grand total, you'll see there is 9.2 million gallons per day that we own in all wastewater treatment plants. Speaking of 6 and 20, just a brief history and to show you some numbers regarding the one treatment plant that we own. It was built in 1986. It's at 1,500. That word, yeah, road. And the capacity is 500,000 gallons per day. Again, it was a 3 mil sewer tax, helps keep that treatment plant going. In 1988, it started receiving its flow. Currently, we have about 347,000 gallons a day capacity and 131,000 average daily flow at that treatment plant. Here's just a little bit more information on that treatment plant. Mr. Smith, he did have 3 operators on staff. He now only currently has 2. I believe he has lost one to an industry. That treatment plant, of course, we had to have lab work conducted to make sure that we meet DHEC standards. That treatment plant primarily serves 2 plants, Bosch and Avco. And you'll see that our DHEC and EPA permits are good until 2015. I wanted to give you a brief recap of the revenue and expenditures for that plant. The revenue is about $285,000. The approximate operating cost, you've got 3 individuals that work about 20% of their time covering that facility, totaling about $66,000, and $87,000 in operating and $39,000 in contractual. So you have about $192,000 operating for net earnings of about $92,000 for that treatment facility. That was last fiscal year, numbers fiscal year 11. Just remind council that your user charge is $6.95 per 1,000 gallons. Electric City Utilities treatment fee is $2.04 per 1,000 gallon. So every 1,000 gallons that flows through one of their 2 treatment plants, they charge us $2.04. The last 2 or 3 years, they have had a 7% increase. It was $1.91 fiscal year 11, and as you see, it's going to be $2.04 the fiscal year we're in now. And so thus, for the flow going to Generosity or Rocky River, we net about $4.91 before any other expenses of the sewer fund are deducted. Just a brief recap of the treatment fees. I told you last year we had to give them $1.91 per 1,000 gallons of flow that they treated. We gave them about $731,000 for the total flow that went through their 2 treatment centers, with most of it being Generosity, about $600,000 and about $100,000 going through Rocky River. Of course, that's the flow mostly goes through Generosity. Just wanted to show council this is the fiscal year 11, fiscal year 12 budgeted revenues side by side, and you got 6.5 for fiscal year 11 and fiscal year 12, about $6.3 million. Yes, ma'am.
Would you, for everyone's education, clarify the transfer in for fiscal year 11 and the transfer in for fiscal year 12, where that comes from?
Yes, ma'am. That transfer in is to cover debt service, basically. It's to cover the principal on our debt, and I'm going to itemize all the debt for you here in just a little bit, but this money, of course, about 1.5 million, comes from 2 funds. Primarily, it's an infrastructure fund. It's a special revenue fund, levy-driven, and we collect that money, then we transfer it to the sewer fund to assist in infrastructure. And then also our economic development fund, a capital projects fund. There's about $500,000 of that money that flows in to help. There's no general fund money. It's a special revenue fund and a capital projects that goes to help keep that fund whole and to make sure that we meet our debt service. As you'll recall, council voted to allow these monies to qualify so that we will meet our debt covenant. So that was very integral to keeping this fund afloat.
Ms. Davis, Mr. Crowder's,
So in essence, Ms. Davis, this really equates to the fact that the sewer fund does not have enough revenue contained within its own self, so we have to underwrite using infrastructure money and also economic development money to make sewer program whole. Now, does this just cover sewer, or is stormwater mixed in there?
Both.
Both.
It all goes into the same fund.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
And I've got a slide a little bit later as well showing you the stormwater portion
So,
of
so a
these numbers.
follow-up question, which may be unfair, but if you don't have the answer, you can let us know. What part of these deficits is caused by just stormwater?
I've got a slide. If you'll indulge me just a moment, sir, I'll show you.
I will be glad to wait, whatever.
I've got a slide
Thank
recapping that for you. I'm
Thank
glad you asked that question. Here's the fiscal year 11-12 side by side for the budget now, broken down by personnel, operating, and contractual, and the interest on the debt that we owe. And you'll see the total for fiscal year 11 was $5.1 million, and fiscal year 12, 4.7. Well, you go, wait a minute, for fiscal year 11 was 5 million, fiscal year 12, 4.8. Why is the revenue so high? If you pop back up, you see it's 6.5 and 6.3. Again, that's to make sure that we can meet the principal portion of our debt. I put this slide in here just to show you that, if you'll recall, there used to be a department, 5611, called Sewer Division Budget, and we took, fiscal year 11 was the first year we took that department and split it up. Some personnel that primarily worked with the animal shelter and processed their paperwork and helped them, we put them in the animal shelter. I think it's just one lady. And we kept 2 in the sewer department, and then I think it was 4 we moved to solid waste, because they primarily worked in the solid waste department. It was formed because those personnel kind of managed that whole division, but to be honest with you, the sewer fund could not help sustain all of that, so we got rid of it, and you see that over a 5-year period, it amounted to $2.2 million, so that's why we knew we had to at least give the sewer fund some relief in that regard. And then, Mr. Crowder, here, addressing your stormwater, you'll see that since the implementation of that program in fiscal year 06 through fiscal year 11, in those 6 years, we've taken $1.4 million of the sewer fund to help sustain that program. And you got it broken down by year, what their net loss was.
So would you agree with the general statement, Ms. Davis, that there's a need to focus on 2 sources of revenue? Number one, additional revenue to shore up sewer fund itself, and additional revenue to shore up the stormwater program, so that we don't continue to have to use economic development money and infrastructure money to fund sewer program?
Mr. Crowder, I would hope that would be county council's one of their top priorities this upcoming budget season, to address that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And I just put this slide in here just to show you that approximately how much each year depreciation and amortization goes into the sewer fund and hits the bottom line, about $2.6 million. That amortization is from the capacity we own. Well, I'll use that word loosely. It's an intangible asset. We don't own, that treatment facility, but that becomes an asset, and we have to amortize it on our books. So that's what that represents, that $1 million. That's the city's capacity that we amortize. It primarily functions the same as depreciation. Here's a recap of the notes payable and the interest for the last 6 years. You'll see where it's 3.3 for fiscal year 11, and you'll see how that's grown, and that's why it's so imperative that we address keeping the sewer fund afloat and financially solvent this upcoming budget year, so that we don't have to rely on those other two funds to make them whole. There's just a graph, just graphing that previous slide, showing how much the debt has increased. And here is just a recap of the loans, the total amount of the loan. And like the city, like on the second line, the city borrowed $4.5 million. We were only 18 million of that. Well, I say only loosely, but we were 18 million of that debt, and so forth. And I've got the years that those notes were originated. So the first three are related to the upgrade and expansion of Rocky River and Generosity wastewater treatment plants, in addition to Rocky River relief sewer, the wet weather project, and so forth, as we itemized on a previous slide. The next four are state revolving fund loans for different projects that the county has had. And you'll see the current principal balance owed as of June 30, 2011 is in the far right-hand column, totaling $37.5 million. That's the debt burden that the sewer fund currently has. That concludes the presentation.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one more question?
Mr. Crowder?
And then I'll hush, at least for a while. Is there any reason why on page 16 of 18, I know this is retrospect, so maybe we're not around when this all came to be, but I'm just curious. I know we can't do anything about it. I don't think so. But why was the system essentially deeded to the city when in fact we are paying a significant share of the cost?
Mr. Crowder, I don't have an answer for you other than that was the deal that was struck.
I realize that.
I wasn't around when it was struck.
Ms. Floyd?
Wasn't that during the time when Duke Power went up for, when Duke Power was, that was the water thing. But when they bought the Duke Power water thing, didn't they get the city acquired the sewer thing at the same time?
No, ma'am.
They didn't acquire it at the same
No,
time?
ma'am.
Yeah, maybe I don't have an answer then.
No, ma'am.
But I do know this, that the county is in our ordinance that we are not in the sewer or water business.
Right.
Yeah,
So, water business.
yeah. But it doesn't say sewer?
Mm-mm.
That's what I thought. So maybe that's the reason why the city has it, because we have it in our ordinance that we.
No, ma'am. We are in the sewer business. It's just, it's in our orders, we're not in the water business.
Yeah.
Wilson?
Well, there are several troubling aspects to this, and it's something that I don't know can be cured immediately, but it needs to be looked in. For example, the 1998 amendment to the agreement has this clause that I found troubling. In consideration of the above, the county hereby agrees to pay its pro rata share of principal and interest upon revenue bonds issued heretofore and hereafter by the city for the purposes set forth. A lot of these agreements are not very carefully worded. Some of the wording doesn't track from one to the other in as organized a manner as possible. Like in one document, it refers to an expansion at one of the city-owned sewer plants, but doesn't specify the amount of the gallons per day on one plant, but does in the other. There's a city agreement that city and county supposedly signed in May of, I think it was 1998, and then you come back and the county does a resolution sanctifying it or ratifying it in June. It we do have a questionable load of debt obligation in this. We have one sewer line that, of course, I fought vigorously for years, and that's a big drag on the system because I think only 8 or 9 houses have been added to it, and yet we're paying probably, I think maybe our part of that was around $12 million. So that's interesting. I take it back. This was in 2003 that the resolution was passed by Anderson County Council, and yet it was signed supposedly in May. But bottom line, we have sewer needs coming in the future. The question is, can we meet the needs because of our financial situation that was created before many of us came on council here. We do have the ability to expand at 6 and 20 plant up to 1 million gallons per day, and that is, there are a couple of prime industrial sites out there. And we have an element that's also something that we should review, and that is, I think we need to review the actual allocations and compare our treatment numbers, because maybe, for example, Company A may have more allocation or capacity allocated to it than it could most optimistically need. Those are things that I think we can look at and maybe readjust some of those agreements. Just to give you an example, I know Mr. Singleton remembers that we even found a phantom project that was allocated 25,000 gallons per day at the 6 and 20 plant. We finally got that rectified. It was for a veterans home that never materialized and nobody ever knew about it. We are doing okay at 6 and 20, our little county-owned plant, but we do have an awful lot of capacity in the city-owned plants that's underutilized, and we have enormous debt service to pay. I think if you look at the numbers that were presented, I think we're going to have to all put our heads together, and I think the first thing that we need to agree to do is not to agree to any further cost to the county with the city without a thorough vetting. I think all of this proves that wiser heads never prevailed originally. So I appreciate all the staff who worked so hard presenting this. This is very helpful. I hope it'll answer a lot of our citizens' questions. And we do have excess capacity and enormous debt service, and some of the capacity may not be in areas that would be as readily utilized. So off we march future and hopefully figure out how to make the sewer infrastructure work best in our county. Thank you.
Thank you.
all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Anyone else? Hearing if no one has objection, we take about a 5-minute break. We'll finish up and we'll come back. I think I'm going to. See. Get in no trouble.
It is Elizabeth Fayette.
I wake up, I scream, today it's called pop pass right. Cut up 5 yards, that's straight in. And half the time I couldn't. I really like that. I didn't play back. That's it. When you on this.
Y'all ready? Y'all come on back in. We'll get started here in just a second. I wish you had a. I wish they had a. Hey. Goodbye, Shawnee. Lynn, you ready? This time I call the regular council meeting back in session. This time we voted to amend the agenda at an earlier date on the Green Pond thing. At this time I'd like to bring this forward. I'd like to make a motion, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have presented the county with a temporary access agreement to allow county surveyors on the Corps' property to do some preliminary work for the Green Pond Landing Event Center. Accordingly, I move that we authorize the county administrator to execute the access agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Put that in form of a motion. Have a second. Second, Mr. Moore. I was going to say it's costing us no money whatsoever. It's just a formality because the agreement wasn't ready, and they gracious enough, the Corps was, to let us come on their property. before we had the agreement signed. Did I say that right, Mr. Pitts?
You did, yes, sir.
Mr. Floyd? That's, I'd let Mr. Burns in, it's one of them, grants,
What this is, Mr. Dunn, is this is money that was allocated to Anderson County from the PCB settlement, and that's where those funds will come from.
Okay,
happy, Mr. Floyd?
that's fine, uh-huh.
Anyone else? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so motion carries, Nancy. Thank y'all very much. We can get started on that and be good. Moving on to item number 8, approval of, and that will be 7A, we'll call it. Moving on to approval of bids, I don't believe there are none. Moving on to number 9, appointments to various boards, and commissions. Mr. Waters, you have any? I have none. Mr. Allen?
None at this time.
Ms. Floyd?
I don't have any at this time.
Moore? Mr. Crowder? Ms. Wilson? I thought they had one in the
There's
book.
one here in the book.
Well, I thought there was one in the book.
Yeah. Would that be District 6?
Well, it never did, you know, she's got a question mark. I didn't see no district
Okay.
where that's at. Did y'all see that? Ain't none of y'all forgetting nothing, are you?
No, we're talking about appointments now, right?
Appointments, yes, ma'am. Appointments from, it's library board, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I apologize, I didn't think this one got in here, but it did get in here.
Wake up, you ain't doing your homework. Now, I'm watching.
You've been waiting to say that, hadn't you?
I'm gonna keep you out of trouble.
All right, this is Christina K. Huff. She is for the, I have an appointment for the library committee, and I do apologize. I thought that was for the next one.
We have a motion, Mr. Waters, second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? And all in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously.
I have a question to ask Mr. Burns
Ms. Floyd?
concerning this. Mr. Burns, have you looked any further at the timing of these committee meetings, of these appointments? Because several of my people said that they are not attending the meeting because they have to work.
We're working to see if we can have those meetings at night, yes, ma'am. But since those people are appointed, it's a situation where we don't want to alienate anybody who's appointed to serve on those boards. Because it is a public service on their part, and they don't receive pay for it.
Okay, but there are 2 committees so far where they're meeting in the daytime. All right, and it's causing a hardship to my folks that want to participate, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I know, maybe Ms. Floyd, the appeals board, I think makes it 4:30. That to me, that would be a hard time for some people to get to a thing, especially if it's hadn't come from Mr. Waters' district or something at 4:30 in the afternoon. That is something to look at, I would think.
Well, the museum committee meets at 1 o'clock in the daytime, and that animal shelter committee meets, when they do meet, it's
They meet
It's moved back. It's moved back to 6 o'clock.
Oh,
They meet at 6,
that's
yes,
good.
ma'am.
That's good. That's good. But we need a time when all the others meet as well. Thank you.
How about, if you would, Mr. Burns, talk to staff about that, might, because if I'm not mistaken, I think we've got 2 openings on the appeals board, and that's getting dangerous to have anything done, to get a quorum made, and that might be help somebody get somebody appointed on there. Y'all would, the ones that's need somebody appointed on the appeals board, that's a very important board. They meet constantly, have stuff coming up. That's for signage use, setbacks, and so if you got any opening on that, that's something we might need to address if you can. Thank you. Moving on, request by council members. Mr. Waters,
I have none at this time.
you sure now?
I looked at the book.
Mr. Allen?
I'll do Mr. Waters' for him then. I mean, seriously,
As long as it's out of your money, he said, that's fine.
I was going to use your money. What are you talking about?
District camp money.
I do have 3, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut each one of them back just a little bit because I'm getting a lot of requests in this year for money. But I'll just go ahead
Keep in
and...
mind, we're just now getting, at least, what, half the year to go.
I know it. I'm getting clobbered. But anyway, I'll do all 3 of them at once, if that's okay.
Yes, sir. Pleasure.
The South Carolina Upstate Equine Council, $4,000, and this is going to be to upgrade some speakers and some other things out at the arena where they have their shows. The Townville Recreation Department, $3,500, and the New Light Community Center, $1,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Put
may
that in form of a motion. Get a second right quick. Get a second. Mr. Waters.
Second.
Second.
I have
Ms.
a
Flo-
problem.
Okay, go ahead.
I am on the board for the first group that he asked, so I need to disclose that and abstain.
If we can, then,
So
Mr.
if we
Allen,
could do it,
would you just do that separate?
Okay,
Do-
I'll just do it, okay.
Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. We're going,
All right, let me, I'll withdraw that, what I just said, and I'll go back and just do the Townville Recreation Department at 3,500 and the New Light Community Center for 1,000.
second.
Have a second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like signs. Now we've got the, go back to the
Okay.
equine,
And,
$1,000.
right, one other one, that'd be the South Carolina Upstate Equine Council, and that would be $4,000.
Have a motion, have a second. Second, Mr. Moore. Any further discussion? And all in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed, all abstained. Third motion carries by Mr. Allen, Mr. Waters, Ms. Floyd, Dunn, Mr. Moore, Crowder in favor, no opposition, and Ms. Wilson abstains. Anything else?
That's all.
Ms. Floyd?
I have one.
Ma'am.
Please. This one is for the Anderson Emergency Kitchen, $500.
Motion, Ms. Floyd. Have a second. Second, Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor of Ms. Floyd's motion, show of hands.
Good.
Opposed, like signs. Motion carries. And that's it, Ms. Floyd?
Thank you.
I'd like to give District 5's recreation account, since other council members is low up, I will up about $300 to the Humane Society to do the fur ball event this year.
Second.
coming up. Second, Ms. Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so motion carries unanimously. That's it at this time, Mr. Moore. Motion, Mr. Moore, have a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Wilson, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed, like sign, so motion carries unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Moore? Crowder?
Microphone.
Sorry. I would like to appropriate from the account to the Anderson County Humane Society $300
For the fur ball event.
for fur ball. Yes, sir.
Have a second.
Second.
Second, Ms. Wilson, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so motion carries unanimously. Anything else, Mr. Crowder?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. District 7 has a number to appropriate tonight. The first one is the Anderson County Humane Society, and in the form of a motion, $400 for their fur ball event. The second one is the Shutter Youth Center, $3,500 for their projects and operations. And Palmetto High School Air Force Junior ROTC, $2,000 for their military ball at the Civic Center. And Pelzer Heritage Commission, $1,500. And all this in the form of a motion.
Motion, Ms. Wilson, we have a second. Second, Mr. Moore. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, show of hands. Opposed, like sign, so motion carries unanimously. Anything else, Ms. Wilson?
That's all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 11, Administrator's Report.
Mr. Chairman, some time ago, I brought before the council the verbal request from the Salvation Army that they would like to explore the idea of using the old gym at McCants School. They have now made that a formal request. As you know, they currently use 4 classrooms. As every member of council also knows, their old facility burned. And what they would like to do is have the use actually have control of the gym at McCants School. If any of you would like to go tour the status of that building right now, it's in very, very poor condition. They are not asking us for money, but they would like very much to have the use of that gym and make that their main base of operations for the Salvation Army / Boys and Girls Club, and would request that council give consideration to giving us guidance in which direction to move. But I can assure you that they are very serious. They have a substantial sum of money that they acquired from their insurance and other private contributions.
I believe they are using part of some classrooms down there now, isn't that
Yes, sir,
correct?
they're currently using
They've paid to get-
classrooms down there. As a matter of fact, that's about all they have at this point in time.
Does anybody, Ken, we can vote on this next, wouldn't on, vote on this next council meeting, but does anybody have any objections to moving this forward to try to do up? I think it's a worthwhile idea, especially to help him out at that building down there. What gives out, Ms. Floyd?
I had some questions
Yes, ma'am.
first, yeah. They are not asking us for any money.
No, ma'am.
However, are they asking for any in-kind, type things?
No, ma'am, but with the permission of council, I told them if there were any possibilities of grant funds or things like that, that we would be more than happy to use our expertise and abilities to help them secure those. Naturally, that would have to come before council before we proceeded.
But there's no cleanup that they want us to do, or no refurbishing, not refurbishing, what's the word? When you-
Demolition?
No, straighten it up, no walls knocked out, I guess it'd be demolitions, or nothing to that.
No, ma'am. What they're looking for tonight is an indication that the council is willing to move forward in negotiations. And I'm sure there may be some things that I'm leaving out, but they would really like to have just an indication that they could report to their Atlanta office tomorrow.
And y'all have a problem with that? Let Mr. Burns say that we willing to negotiate, start something up? Will you make that motion?
Make that informal motion.
Let Mr. Crowder, any more discussion? All in favor, just let Mr. Burns make a phone call, or they can report back to their home office in Atlanta that we willing to look on this favorably and negotiate something with them. All in favor? Opposed, like sign, so the motion carries unanimously.
Last item, Mr. Chairman, council was presented with a proposal from the Anderson County Humane Society on their spay and neuter clinic, and I believe every member of council has had a chance to take a look at it. We are not asking for approval of that at this point in time, but we would like to have an indication from council that we could have a resolution prepared at the next meeting so we could kick this program off and begin to make a difference in the number of unwanted animals.
Absolutely.
Question?
Yes,
Moore
ma'am.
puts that in form of motion, Mr. Crowder seconds it, now discussion, Ms. Floyd.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
That's right, go ahead.
This Humane Society thing, okay, was that thing put out to bid?
No, ma'am.
It wasn't put out
No,
to
ma'am.
bid?
No.
Why? We didn't have to do it?
No,
We didn't
ma'am.
have to bid it?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because we're looking for a spay and neuter nonprofit organization. They stepped up to the plate. They made a proposal. Nobody else has stepped up to the plate. Nobody's requested to make a proposal.
Okay, did we, well, who got it? Who's doing it? I mean, it's the Humane Society, right? And who's over the Humane Society?
Ms. Wanda Crane is the president of that new,
Isn't she a member of the,
absolutely is, yes, ma'am.
what's the name of that thing? The Animal,
That's
Advisory.
advisory.
isn't she a member of the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee?
She is.
Would that be a conflict of interest? That she received money by being on that committee, and she received the money to do it, and now she has to bid without it being
But it would not,
advertised?
it would not be going to her. It would be going to the
To one of her,
society.
yeah.
And they currently have a facility on Highway 28 that they're operating out of right now. I believe they operate under Dr. Mac Burris's license at that facility. And they are already doing this. As a matter of fact, the Oconee County Spay and Neuter Program brings animals down to that facility.
Well, I understand the logistics of the whole thing, I understand that. But what I can't understand, what I'm having problems understanding, is this lady is on the board,
Yes, ma'am.
all right? And she's getting money from the county to do this, this thing here. Now, a few minutes ago, Mrs. District 7 excused itself from the vote because she was on the board of the equine thing. But here we are giving somebody on one of our boards. It just doesn't, would you research that for me?
And maybe I can keep it to Ms. Floyd, is the animal shelter per se, really, it's nothing to do with the spay and neuter program. This is for the citizens of Anderson County. is
But
where
we're
this-
giving her money. The county has made a donation to this, have they not?
Well, it's not, no ma'am. It's gonna be, only way they'll get money is services in kind.
Ms. Floyd, I and Rita and Mr. Steve Newton and several others have met with Ms. Crane and other members of that committee. And what this is would be a documented system. It would have a I guess, checks and balances on it. This would be, you do this animal, you get X amount of money. They use a series of veterinarians who work there, so I don't see, excuse me, any way possible for an individual to receive any money personally out of this.
Well, I'm not talking about the individual receiving money personally. I'm talking about the fact that this individual is on the board.
Yes, ma'am.
And this individual's, company, or whatever you want to call it, received the contract without it being put out there for bid. And I understood that we had to, well, anyway, I'm not going to drag this out. Would you just please look it up for me, and I will go along with what the attorney telling me.
And we will be preparing a resolution or a member of council can to present to council well in advance of this.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Mr. Moore?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Burns, well as I remember, when you sent out an RFQ, no one even responded. They were the only people that stepped up to the plate trying to do anything with the spay and neuter program. They were the only ones that was even interested in trying to do that. Am I not right?
Mr. Robert Carroll put out an RFQ for the use of the old animal shelter. 2 occasions, anybody that wanted to use the old animal shelter for a spay and neuter clinic. We received nothing, but we did receive interest from Dr. Burris and members of the Humane Society about performing this service. That's correct.
I had the floor, Ms. Floyd. That's why I just want to bring that up to, because I remember them stepping up to the plate and doing that, and we've tried twice on 2 different occasions, because I remembered the vote on it, and no one would step up to the plate and do it, and these people have been established in Anderson County for quite a long time. They do an awful lot of good work. And also, I went to the fur ball that they had last year was such a success, and they have really helped Anderson County on our animal situation on the spay and neutering with the low-cost facility they're operating right now. And I think we should, instead of trying to chastise them, I think we should be thanking them for stepping up to the plate and trying to help Anderson County out and the citizens of Anderson County and help us to start our facility and get a spay and neuter program started in Anderson County. I think she's doing an outstanding job on our animal shelter advisory committee, and I think she does an outstanding job on the Humane Society also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Allen.
yeah.
Mr. Allen, Nick, and I'll get you.
Quick question. So are they going to, when they start this operation, kick it off, are they going to be using their current building?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So the old shelter's completely out of,
No, sir. There is internal discussion among members of the Humane Society about whether they want to stay in the present location or would they like to take advantage of the old animal shelter. That is an internal discussion that they're having. Our situation here, and as we're moving ahead with the spay and neuter program, with the permission of council, whether they're here, there, or everywhere else.
all right, thank you.
Ms. Wilson?
Just an observation, a number of those volunteers who work with the Humane Society, and they've quite a large number, they give their own money. It's not like they're in a position of receiving money. The only thing they receive is satisfaction of saving some animals and helping people who are underprivileged, who would like to have a pet. So it's not the conflict would not be for them benefiting themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Floyd?
Okay, first of all, I only asked a question. Clear up something that I've been hearing things about. I only asked a question, okay? If it's being taken as chastising, it's only chastisement in the mind of the speaker who said it. I do have some concerns. There are some concerns out there. I was asking a question. I understand how fiercely some of my colleagues support this little thing that they have going on. But my question still stands. Now, at first you told me that it was not, that you didn't send it out for bid. You told me that at first. And then you come back when he spoke and said something else. But the only thing I'm saying now is that, please, would you just look at it and let me know? I'm asking a question for my benefit, which I have a right to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a motion to move this forward.
Make a motion, we move this forward, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion?
What are we moving?
Moving forward, let Mr. Burns bring back a resolution to get this thing in the works by next meeting night. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. All opposed? All abstentions? So the motion carries. Mr. Waters, Mr. Allen, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Moore, Crowder, Ms. Wilson in favor. No opposition. Ms. Floyd abstains. Administrator? You sure? Sure. Wasn't nothing?
No, sir, I'm going to reserve that for the next meeting.
Okay. More?
While we're on that, kind of somewhat still on that subject, Thursday night, they have the Animal Shelter Advisory Meeting, and I would like for my fellow council members that's on the advisory to join us Thursday night at Animal Shelter at 6 o'clock. So we'll make it kind of a combined meeting. That'll be at 6 o'clock on Thursday night.
This is the animal?
The Animal Shelter Advisory Board's got a, Mr. Moore says they've got a meeting scheduled at 6 o'clock this coming Thursday, their regular meeting. And so he wants the advisory board to meet, council's advisory board to meet,
Any
to
council,
meet them. And any council members all welcome to come and invited to come. And that'll be 6 o'clock this Thursday at the Anderson County Animal Shelter.
Okay.
Paul's.
Okay, are you sure you're going to have a meeting this time? Because the last meeting, I went all the way out there just to find out that they didn't have a quorum for a meeting. And that was a little unsettling, so are we sure we're going to have a meeting?
Well, we can't, I hope we do, but, we can't control that, or I can't.
Can't, but.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, the advisory board will be there, hopefully, the council members will be there, so that part will go anyway.
we're going to have a meeting.
Well, I'm not sure I would be able to make it meeting, so.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Moore? Got it. Moving on to item number 12, citizens' comments. Mr. Pitts would state your name and district, address the chair, please.
Mark Powell, District 7. I wish the other council members would spend as much due diligence and time as looking into things as representative for my district does. It would appear to some council members can read an Anderson Independent article and make statements such as you'd rather them travel 5 hours to go to Myrtle Beach instead of 2 hours to Charlotte or Atlanta. Learn and understand things on our own would be appreciated. McCants, we spent, $9 million fixing that thing up? We've given away everything about it. It's not a bad thing. These people own the building. Did I hear you say it burned? They got lots of insurance money. Why can't we, Anderson County, sell something instead of give everything away that we own? The next question would be do we pay the power bill for any of that building over there? Do we pay the sewer bills, any of that building over there? Do we pay that building insurance for any of that building over there? There is cost involved in everything that we keep giving away over and above the whatever millions of dollars we spent to renovate that building that was not fit for use years ago. The other thing I'd like to say is Green Pond. Didn't know it was on the agenda tonight, but once again, I want to remind everybody in council and everybody in the state of South Carolina and Anderson County, a company did a bad thing, contaminated water. They spent a lot of money trying to fix it, and they've given us money. And instead of sucking some of the nasty stuff off the bottom of the lake, we're building another boat dock for people to go catch fish that we tell them, by God, don't you eat it because you might die in Suez probably. I don't think that's very logical. I give you guys back in January when you first gave the company over in Pelzer, ACE Environmental, $27 million, well, $23 million. I think it was $15 million one time and $5 million another, and another $750,000 came up. I'll give you a copy of the report that DHEC came out and inspected them after my phone calls. Over 20 items that they were found to be in violation of. Those guys on Cherokee roads, only thing they're allowed to do is take sticks, break them into little sticks, and get rid of them. Instead, there's 23 violations, massive violations, that they were found guilty of. I gave every one of you a copy of this. And I wasn't here when you had the meeting a couple of months ago, but that fell through. I think it was a little too hard for them to deal with the money they were getting that time, and apparently you gave them permission to do 20, 30, I don't know, more millions of dollars. All I'll ask is for you guys and society to keep your eyes on that, because he paid $60,000 for the dirty sets on Cherokee Road. He paid $400,000 for the property over where the not Flexform's a different one. where the property with the, over on 81, he paid about $400,000 for it. And then everything he's done, he gets to buy himself out. The company, the new company, will be able to buy him, so the new company own everything. And I just fear that he's going to become a millionaire off of the crap he's left in our county, and y'all haven't done due diligence on that. Thank you.
Well, I've been in dealing with politics now about 3 years, I guess, and it just ceases to never amaze me how we can't get to the real help. We argue, we fuss, we make every excuse to not help. The animal shelter thing. District 2 might want to realize that I am a lifetime member of the Anderson County Humane Society. Myself and a bunch of others back in 1973-74 each put up $100 to buy and to put up the building that was the old shelter. At that time, the animal shelter and the Anderson County Humane Society were synonymous. The reason being is that the people that volunteered their money and their time only had the interest of the animals at heart. Those people now who are in the animal shelter, Anderson County Humane Society, I'm not an active member right now. I have my own load to take care of animals. But every one of those people get no compensation. Miss Wanda Crane gets no compensation. Neither do any of the other volunteers that do the fur ball get compensation. The only money that you all are offering goes in to help fix the animals so that they're not out here procreating. Do you know that 2 cats together and their offspring in 7 years can create over 500,000 cats in 7 years? Now that's these 2 cats over here. Not counting the 2 cats over here, and the 2 cats over here, and the ones behind me. Now, can you imagine what that can be in 7 years? And the dogs are not quite as mobile, so it's a little bit easier there, but usually if you talk to Michelle Dodd and some of the other people out at the shelter, when people bring in a dog and mama puppies, they may bring in a dog and 8 puppies. And it goes over and over and over. And the only way we're going to help this problem is to stop the procreation. And there are people out here in District 2's district, in District 4, 5, 7, every one of your districts who have animals who cannot afford to take them to the vet, to have them spayed or neutered at $300 a clip. But they would be willing to take them to the Anderson County Humane Society and get them fixed for around $60. We've got to stop the politicizing, the
That's time,
arguing,
Mr. Chairman.
and do something.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Thank you. No remarks from council members, Ms. Wilson? Sorry, got you drinking.
Thank you. I apologize for my coughing and gagging tonight, but just to put it into perspective, previous councils gave funds to groups and organizations that they were members of the board. Some of them were even presidents and chairmen of the different organizations. And I'm not saying that it was right or wrong, but the appearance was an issue. And earlier this year, Mr. Pitts researched that at my request, and that's how District 7 is approaching the situation, even though a lot of the 501c3s will have some of us on their boards, some of us doing volunteer work. It's more appropriate, it seems, that we disclose that in the interest of public information. There were thousands of dollars over the years that went to causes that was not disclosed. And again, I don't say that it was right or wrong, but I think in the interest of the public we serve, they do need to know if we're involved. And I appreciate all that y'all are doing and appreciate the work the staff did tonight and trying to educate us a little more about the sewer situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Crowder?
No comments, Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind everybody that we'll be having the Standpipe Festival in Belton coming up, and we also have the Old Farm Days at Parker Bowie Complex that will be taking place between now and the next council meeting. So if y'all want some fun, come down to either Ivor or Belton, and you're going to see some old tractors and old cars, something for everybody. So y'all come out and enjoy the fun we're going to have, the festivities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Floyd?
Yes, thank you. I have something I'd like to say here. I want to talk about the question or the instructions that was given to Mr. Pitts to please search whether a county council member can lobby for grants or not, okay? I want to help you with your research, okay, by telling you, yes, a county council member can lobby for grants. When I do my lobbying for grants, I do it within the confines of the county staff, all right? I work with them from the beginning to the end of. I do not write the grants, but when it's time to present it to the proper people, or when it's time to get support for the grant that is written, I will go and do that as a county council member. But my colleague needs to know that county council members do all kinds of things rather than just sit here in their home station and micromanage. They go to Columbia at times to talk with their representatives. I have taken many trips down to Columbia to talk to one of the representatives concerning something here in Anderson County. They go to Washington, D.C. to talk with their senators and their congressmen there, especially in getting road money and bridge money. They write letter of support, and they meet with different companies trying to get them to come to their home county to build or bring money there. Okay, just as this council person sat down and worked up his own budget and presented it, it's the same thing. Can a council member do that? The answer is yes. Working within the confines of the state, of the county, in order to get the job done. Can. But I know this was directed directly at me. It seems like everything that I have tried to do for Anderson County in this year has been a problem. It has developed into a new law, a new ordinance. My appointment that I made, now we have to fill out appointment sheets. My travel, now I have to ask the finance committee if I could go somewhere. The prayer, I have asked members of the community from different churches to come and pray with us, but that was a problem. They had to change that. Somebody put it on the radio station. I brought a gun to county council meeting. Did y'all hear about that one? And the gun fell out of my purse, and y'all saw it when it fell out. All right, so now I have to be patted down when I come to the meetings. When my funds, when I appropriated funds to a community that needed it, some of my colleagues went running to Mr. Pitts to see what I did wrong. Could I do that? Is it legal? But it seems as if everything that I have tried to do for Anderson County has been met with some kind of barrier. You're trying to stop it. You're trying to stop it. We started out very, very volatile when we were on this council, when we all started working together. I want to credit, and I've done this before, I want to credit Mr. Dunn for finally putting an end to it, who finally accepted me and the work that I do as a valuable member of this council and in the community. I want to thank my seatmate over here. Because of me, he has gone through some tough scrutiny. Because of me, I realize this. But the others, I just want you to know that everything I have done for my district, for my county, has been on the up and up. But you cannot stop me. I will not let you stop me. Mr. Pitts, you can go and research it if you want to, but the answer is yes. A county council member can lobby for grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Waters?
Got a couple of things, maybe three, because the third one's just to cover if I decide to say something else. Just wanted to bring this up, the employees of Anderson County. We've got a lot of good employees out there, and I appreciate all their hard work. I've worked close with them, a couple of them, and they do quite a bit. No, this weekend, one of them missed part of the Clemson game. That may not be important to you, but that is to some people. Carolina game's important to some people. Different people have different things that are important to them. But I really appreciate the hard work that the county members have worked with me. And we've had some deep discussions on some things. They disagreed with me and I've disagreed with them. But in the end, we've come to a conclusion, and we've got some pilot programs we're going to be trying out with some things that some other people may like doing that, but it may not work out, and we may have to change some things back. But that's okay. It's not costing any extra money. The second thing is myself, Josh Putnam, and Kevin Bryant will be having a town meeting October the 6th up at Wren High School at 6:30. We have a couple of things we're going to show, and the main thing we're going to do is just listen to see what's on people's mind up in District 6. And all the representatives are going to be there. The message I want to send is I'm willing to work with anybody. And that doesn't mean we have to agree. We can disagree, but we can do it in a professional way. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing. Appreciate all the support. That's going to be October the 6th at 6:30 at Wren High School.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. I'd just like to finish up saying appreciate all the hard work staff's done on the redistricting so far, and being as smooth as it has. I want to thank fellow council members tonight for getting through the meeting. Look forward to working rest of the year out with you, and forward to a good, strong, finishing up a good, strong year. No objections, meeting be adjourned.
Creed, would you wait, please?
Well, may I also say we're going to have a finance committee meeting Friday at 2 o'clock, please.
Good today, we'll be good.
I know after in the morning.
Can we have two more? Closing in. Stop broadcast stuff, record.